Winter is coming. Welcome everyone to Rulebreaker. Today we're going to be looking at the core set cards for House Stark for Game of Thrones card game 2nd edition. Stark are a deceptively complex house to get the best out of. They seem like they've got a kind of a one-dimensional playstyle at first, but there's actually quite a lot going on even in the core set with these guys, so don't underestimate them. So without further ado, let's jump straight in and look at the first card, which is Arya Stark, who's one of my favourite characters from the books and TV series. So she is a loyal Stark character. She costs 3 gold, has a power icon and 2 strength. She has the lady trait. She has the keyword of stealth, which is the best keyword in my opinion, and I'm going to keep saying that to annoy people who disagree. And her text reads, while Arya Stark has a duplicate, she gains a military icon. And she has a reaction. After Arya Stark enters play, place the top card of your deck on her face down as a duplicate. Cool. So straight out of the gates here, I'm just going to call it that Arya is really good. She's a great character. She's very cost effective. She costs 3, which is not a lot at all. She doesn't have a lot of strength, but she does have stealth, and when she comes into play she's going to get a duplicate automatically on her face down like this, which is going to give her a military icon that she doesn't have, which means that she's very flexible. Of course, the cost of 3 means that she's susceptible to a lot of negative effects, like lots of the Targaryen reduce strength to kill stuff and first snow of winter. But I think she's really good. She has that duplicate. That helps quite a lot. The downside to this duplicate is you don't know what it is, for one thing, and also it could be any of the cards in your deck. So if you're running one of something like an event or I don't know, like a location or something like that, chances are that you could draw that and not know, and it would be under her there. But I think that's a small price to pay for having that extra life on her. She's got a lot of synergies actually as well. She has a named synergy with Septa Mordane. I'm just gonna show you here. She comes from the first cycle of cards, the Westeros cycle. I can't remember exactly which pack she was in, but she has an ability here on the bottom that says Arya Stark gains a intrigue icon and becomes immune to opponent's plot effects while you control Septa Mordane, which is amazing. It's really good, because if Arya's got this duplicate, she's got the military icon, she has the power icon already, and with Septa Mordane she has the intrigue icon, so she becomes a tricon for 3 if you've got Septa Mordane in play too. It's really nice. She also works really nicely with another one of the cards that I'm going to talk about later on in this section, Summer. So Summer is one of the direwolves, it's Bran's direwolf, and while I'll talk about this card properly later, what I will say is that it allows you to get back characters with 2 strength, and because Arya has 2 strength, you'll be getting her back and you'll be getting the duplicate when you do that, which is excellent. It's really good. So Summer enables this whole thing to happen again if you want to go with that route, if Arya's been lost. Yeah, really cool. So Arya's, for me, is definitely 5 stars. She's one of the best characters for Stark, one of the ones I use consistently a lot in almost every Stark deck I've built. There is another Arya Stark which comes later on in the game in the Wolves of the North expansion, the Stark expansion, which costs more and has more strength, but is kind of not as good as this one. She has a very different playstyle. I'm not going to talk too much about her because I'll cover her later when we do the expansions, but I generally don't play this one because I like the core one so much more. So give her a go if you're playing Stark. She's very solid, very flexible, gives you a lot of options. That's Arya Stark. The second card in the set is Bran Stark, Arya's little brother. He costs 2 gold, has a power icon and 1 strength, with the interrupt of when the effects of an opponent's event would initiate, sacrifice Bran Stark to cancel those effects. Yeah, that's pretty good. Lannister players hate this guy because when they try to treachery away something, Stark guys can just dump Bran in the bin and cancel their effects. Events are becoming a thing that are more and more important in the game as it goes on, in my opinion. Like things like put to the sword, put to the torch, these things that kill locations and characters on demand. I've kind of been having a bit of a resurgence when I've been playing lately, and Bran is a really good way of countering these. Regarding other character synergies, he works nicely with Summer, who we just mentioned. Let me find him again. Because what you can do is you can basically recycle Bran for his effect by bringing him back into play, by putting Summer into play, which is really handy. It's a really obvious synergy there. He's a little weak on the strength and icon side. He's not like world's most useful chump character. Getting rid of an event is nice though, so I'm gonna give him a proper 4-star rating here. I think that he's got that going, which is rare in this game and something that you should be interested in trying to tackle. It's an interesting way of slowing down event heavy decks, particularly like Lannisters, maybe Greyjoy. Stuff like loot won't be happening as much when Bran is involved in gameplay. Yeah, so give him a try. He's pretty decent. Up next is his mother, Catelyn Stark. She is a loyal Stark character. She's unique. She costs 4 gold, has an intrigue and power icon and 4 strength, with the House Tully, Lady and the 7 traits. And while Catelyn Stark is participating in a challenge, your opponents cannot trigger card abilities. Okay, so let me make sure everybody watching this understands that this card is really good. So once Catelyn Stark is involved in a challenge, anytime your opponent tries to trigger any kind of card ability at all, it's null and void. It won't work. So basically all the best stuff on all the best characters is negated when Catelyn Stark's involved in the challenge. And this works while you're defending or attacking, so you can use that to your strengths. If you are going first and you've got Catelyn Stark there, maybe you want to hold her off, maybe you want to wait, you want to do some damage with other characters. She's always a presence on the board when she's in play. She's generally a target for things like Milk of the Poppy to blank her. Also, she's just such good value for money, even on just a numbers standpoint. 4 strength for 4 gold with 2 icons is pretty solid. She's winning challenges on her own in a lot of cases. I just want to show everybody the other Catelyn Stark that's currently available, which is the really expensive one that comes in the Wolves of the North box. This is a 7 coster. She's only got 1 extra strength and the same icons. And she does have this cool ability where she gains power every time somebody dies, and she gets stronger as a result, which is really strong as well. So both of these cards are good, but in my opinion, the one that you want is the cheaper one that has that stop everybody in their tracks kind of ability. It's just great. This is really strong. She's absolutely 5 stars for me. She becomes this beast of a character who's on the board that even takes the spotlight away from some of the more expensive 6 and 7 cost characters in my decks, and she shuts opponents down almost to a level like nobody else can. It's really good. So look at her, try and fit her in to your Stark competitive decks if you can. She's a presence that really just speaks volumes on the table. So to move to a different tack here, we're going to go for her husband Eddard Stark next. He's 7 gold. He's actually not loyal. He's He's unique, but he's not loyal. He's got a military and power icon and 5 strength. He's the Lord and Small Council traits. He's got renown, and his reaction is after a challenge is initiated against you, stand Eddard Stark. So he's pretty expensive for what he does. In my opinion, 7 for this guy is a bit steep. There is an alternative Eddard Stark that costs 6, also in the Wolves of the North box, who's just significantly better. He's stronger for cheaper and has a more interesting ability involving giving extra power to characters, which can be comboed with the Catelyn I just showed you. So if you're going to be using Eddard, I would go for this guy. But to talk about this one a little bit more in a little bit more detail, if you use him to attack, maybe military challenge for example, if you're going first, you can probably do some damage because he's got a decent amount of strength, and then when your opponent attacks you, he can automatically stand. That's pretty okay. I mean, I'm not saying that he's a bad card, I'm just saying he's expensive. He's not going to win battles, he's not going to win games for you. He's going to be a nuisance to your opponent more so than an actual game changer, so to speak. The Small Council trait is it's got a few little things on it. The one that I will point out is this event, the Council Consents. So it says after a player wins an intrigue challenge by 5 or more strength, stand each small council character. So you may be able to combo this Ned with some of your better intrigue Stark characters. Again, the same character that I just mentioned is going to come up again, this Catelyn Stark, for that ability because she has the 5 strength and the intrigue icon. But you've also got Arya, who we just spoke about a moment ago, in combination with Septim Ordain. So that could work out fairly okay. It's not a great event if you don't have a lot of small council guys, but it works okay with this guy. I can recommend it. So this Ned, I'm going to give him 3.5 stars. I think he's too expensive for what he does, but he can be effective in the right circumstances. And up next we start getting into some of the beasts. So we've got Graywind, which is Direwolf. Here we go. So Graywind costs 5 gold. Is a loyal character and unique. Has 4 strength and a military icon. With the Direwolf trait, intimidate, no attachments. With the challenges action, kneel Graywind to choose and kill a character with 1 strength or lower. Strength 2 or lower instead if you control Robb Stark. I really like Graywind. I think that this kneel to kill ability is really good. Initially you think about this card as something that you do to your opponents, like you kill maybe their reducey dudes who make things cheaper cards, or some of their more effective 2 strength guys if you've got Robb. But I'm actually going to bring up Robb now, who is the next card in the set, and talk about him in conjunction with Graywind, because I think the real utility for Graywind is in combo with this card. So here's Robb Stark. He's a 6 gold cost, loyal, unique Stark character. He's got a military and power icon and 5 strength. He's a lord with renown, and his reaction, which is why I want to talk about him now in combination with Graywind, is after a Stark character you control is sacrificed or killed, stand each character you control, limit once per round. So what I like to do with these characters is send a lot of attacks towards my opponent, do as much damage as I can, but keep Graywind back, waiting, and when all my damage has been done, I like to kneel Graywind to kill one of my own chump Stark characters, like maybe a Winterfell Steward, like this guy, or maybe Tumblestone Knight, for example. And what that enables then is that you can stand everybody. So if I've used Robb and Catelyn and Arya and all these characters, by killing one of these little cheap dudes with Graywind, I can stand all of those guys at the same time, which is awesome. Yeah, it's really cool. And the benefit of this as well is that you also stand Graywind when you do that. So you can use him again to kill an opponent's character, if you like, afterwards, because Robb's ability is limit once per round. So this combo is really cool. It's really fun. So when putting together a rating for Graywind, if you have him in the same deck as Robb and you've got them out on the table, 5 stars for Graywind because of that utility that he has. If you're not playing him with Robb, don't play him. You should be playing him with Robb. That's what he's for. That combo is so good that if you're not doing it, you're only half using Graywind at most. The utility of killing the opponent's characters is useful, but for 5 gold, getting him out on the table to kill a bunch of little dudes that are probably going to be claim soak anyway is not really what you want to be doing with this guy. So use these two together. Robb is a 5-star card as well, because this combo is so good, but also he's got renown, he is a lord, he has other supporting cards that boost him up. We'll talk a little bit more about why he's so good in a second. I just want to show you a little bit more synergy with Graywind first. So Stark have this plot card called A Time for Wolves. It comes in the Wolves of the North box, and it lets you search your deck for a direwolf. Most of the time you're probably going to want Graywind. In that same box there's also the titular Wolves of the North character, which is going to be using lots of direwolves to reduce another character by X, making them pretty ineffective. You've got this event, the pack survives. When the effect of an opponent's event would initiate, sacrifice a direwolf card or kneel 2 star characters to cancel those effects. I mean, sacrificing Graywind is probably last resort for this event, but it is something you can do if it's a game-changing situation with a treachery or a nightmares or something really damaging. Other direwolf related stuff include roaming wolf pack, which if you're using Graywind in an attack, which you could do because he's got a decent amount of strength, he's going to get +2, and because Graywind has intimidate, that +2 with this roaming wolf pack makes him a 6, means he can kneel pretty much anybody you want if you can get a challenge in unopposed or close to it. So yeah, lots of really cool stuff going on with direwolves if you're using them as a team. But back to Robb, just to finish talking about him. He has a lot of supporting cards as well. So in the books, he marries a lady called Jane Westerling. This is her. It's different in the show, so if you don't recognize her from being a show fan, it's because they've changed a lot of that plot to reduce the number of characters in the show. And she kneels to stand a Stark king or lord. So if Robb is used and exhausted, you can kneel Jane to stand him and use him again. She specifically is there for using Robb with, which is a nice little backup for his ability. And to be honest, using her to stand Robb, she could even be the target for Graywind to kick his ability off and have this whole kneel everybody to do stuff and get them back kind of thing going again, which is really cool. And yeah, Robb and Graywind, awesome cards. 5 stars together. Graywind's probably 4 without Robb, maybe a 3 without Robb. Robb maintains his 5-star rating without Graywind, but is all the better with him by his side. I almost forgot another card that also works super nicely with Robb, and that's his buddy Jon Snow. And there's a Stark version of Jon Snow that comes in the Stark box, where you can sacrifice a Stark character to stand somebody, which also in turn activates Robb's ability. So there's a lot of support for Robb's ability, and these two combo super nicely together. Yeah, I'm basically just showing you my Stark deck now doing this. Okay, so the next card in the set is Sansa Stark. She is a unique character that costs 3 gold. She has an intrigue and power icon, 2 strength. She's a lady. Sansa Stark enters play knelt, so she enters play and you can't use her straight away. And her reaction is, after Sansa Stark stands, gain a power for your faction, limit once per round. So I liked this card when the game came out because I'm a kind of a power rush, kind of get to the end before my opponent can do anything about it kind of player. But I found her to be less effective than she appears. She kind of can be used as a game closer if you put her into play quite late. But she's susceptible to so many things like First Snow of Winter, which returns 3 cost or lower characters to your hand. So she's kind of gone down in my estimation over time. Another reason why that might be is because there's a different Sansa version, which, surprise surprise, came in the Stark box. This one here. And she's got a lot more strength for less gold cost, but she has this negative effect of getting -1 for each dead Stark you have, and you kind of want to be killing Starks if you're using Jon Snow, Robb Stark, and all that stuff with Graywind that I just explained. But the benefit of having her with 0 strength then is that she gains insight, which gives you card draw. So she's so flexible and useful that she eclipses this one. Before this one existed, which I really like this one by the way, before this one existed, this Sansa would have been like a 3.5 star card. At the moment she's kind of a 2.5, if even that. She's probably a 2-star character. She just doesn't really get the job done, which is kind of annoying because I do like the way that she comes into play knelt and you can stand her to get a power. It's something different, you don't see a lot of that in the game, and yeah, it's just, she just doesn't get the job done. That's just the honest truth of it, and I've tried to get her to work a lot in the past and she tends just not to do it. So unfortunately, one of the weaker cards in the set. The next card is actually one we've spoken about quite a lot already. It's Summer, a loyal, unique Stark character, 3 cost, military icon, 3 strength, direwolf trait, no attachments. While you control Bran Stark, he gains insight, something I forgot to mention with the Bran card earlier. And reaction, after Summer enters play, return a Stark character with printed cost 2 strength or lower from your discard or dead pile to your hand. So again, just to reiterate, Arya is a cool target for that, as is Bran himself, and then he gets the insight obviously, which I didn't mention here. So Summer is a really good utility kind of card. You kind of end up using Summer as a bit of its claim soak dead character for military claim challenges. Once you've used that ability, I think once that ability is in, that's kind of it really for Summer. There's another card, an event that we're going to talk about in a minute, where I'll mention Summer again. It's called Like Warm Rain. You can use Summer for too, but I think that's a bit of an edge case. So Summer is a really cool utility card, 4 stars. Great for getting Arya back into play as something that you can utilize to your fullest. So yeah, really worth having in your deck. Another direwolf comes up next. It's this little pup, the Direwolf Pop. 2 cost, military icon and 1 strength, with the direwolf trait. Not a unique, not loyal, none of that stuff, just generic stuff. No attachments. Direwolf Pup gets +1 strength for each other direwolf card you control. So nice cheap little character. I have a soft spot for this card, even though I know it's not a great card. I think that if you can get a bunch of them in, you can swarm your opponent with lots of little 3 or 4 strength direwolves. If you're doing a lot of direwolves in your deck, they're a nice staple cheap entry in that kind of thing. They probably get pushed out by a lot of the other direwolf things that have come since then. But the event card that I mentioned a moment ago, Like Warm Rain, which is going to come up later in the breakdown, is this one where if you lose an intrigue icon, you can kneel a direwolf to choose and kill an attacking character. That's what these guys are for, is doing a lot of that. So 3 stars because they're just kind of bleh, but I do like them even though they are kind of meh. partially because I have a fascination with that event card and getting it to work, and really frustrating people who, you know, attack with Cersei or Ariana Martell or somebody really cool in an intrigue challenge, and they expect Stark to not to be able to do anything about an intrigue challenge because Stark are a little bit light on the all intrigue icons. But if you've got this lovely event and characters like this and Summer and all that going, that's really fun. So if you're running lots of direwolves, they're a nice little cheap guy. If you're running them with like Warm Rain, you can pull off some fun little combos there to really annoy your other players. But in a competitive sense, probably not one of the cards you would throw into a Stark deck usually, unless you're doing something a little bit on the fringe like that. So 3 stars, nothing to write home about. Direwolf Pop. A couple more characters to go. 3 more characters to go. For Starks, the first one being another cheapie, Tumblestone Knight. 2 gold cost, military and power icons 2 strength. It's non-unique, not loyal or anything like that. House Tully and Knight, and no ability, just a little bit of flavor text there. So again, not a lot to say about this guy other than he's good value for money. 2 gold for 2 strength, 2 icons, just flat out decent value for money. Every time I look at the artwork on this card, I just look at that derpy horse staring at me, and I'm kind of just like, they could have maybe had a bit of better foresight with the card. I just keep looking at that eye looking at me all the time. Tumblestone Knight's kind of gotten a little bit thrown out for me with some of the other chump Stark cards that have come along in the meantime. Yeah, like House Manderley Knight, if you're running Winter, is a little bit better. Because I play a lot of Winter and he's just got that 1 strength more, so he's just an automatically better card, just for the same cost. Again, that's context specific. In a regular deck without Winter, Tumblestone Knight's probably better, but I prefer the Manderley dude. Yeah, like he's solidly okay, and if you need a 2-slot chump character who can probably get the job done to push a challenge over the edge with another character in conjunction, not bad. So yeah, just proper 3-star, the definition of a 3-star middle ground kind of character. Yeah, okay. Next is Vanguard of the North, which is a non-unique, non-loyal star character. Costs 4 gold, has just the military icon, 4 strength, the army trait, no attachments. While a player has a war plot revealed, Vanguard of the North does not kneel when declared as an attacker in a military challenge. So war plots, there's plenty of those. There's a good few. The one that I'm going to recommend you use with this dude is also in the core set. It's Storm of Swords, which is you may initiate an additional military challenge during the challenges phase. So that's got the war trait, so you can military with this guy and he doesn't kneel, military with this guy and he doesn't kneel, and just make your opponent have to either take a lot of claim or get someone opposed for yourself or do a lot of damage. It's a really handy combo. It's dead simple, it's super obvious, and it's what Stark like to do most, which is just point shiny, pointy, stabby things at other characters and kill them. And this is the absolute definition of that. Solid combo. The only thing is, probably not going to want to have more than 1 copy of this in your plot deck because it's got a really low gold cost or gold income on it. So you're probably not going to get a lot of mileage out of that. You're probably going to want to do that late in the game as well, after a board wipe has happened with Valor Morghulis or Valor Dohaeris or Wildfire Assault, something like that. And for that reason, Vanguard of the North is pretty okay. I'm going to give him 3.5 stars. He's a bit better than the cards we just spoke about because of that reusability, but really not that special. Kind of a little bit expensive for only having 1 icon, and the no attachments thing can be good or bad, so yeah, not too bad. Not amazing, but not too bad. And the last character in the pile is Winterfell Steward. Just your standard reduce the cost of the next Stark card. We've had this in every house so far. So 1 gold for a power icon and 1 strength. An ally and a steward, marshalling action, kneel Winterfell Steward to reduce the cost of the next Stark card to you. Marshal this phase by 1. 3 copies in every deck. Just do it. Make everything cheaper. Have claim soak. Very cost effective. Pays for itself on entry. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about this anymore because you guys should know by now that these are delightful. Always good. Attachments. There's only 1 attachment for Stark in core set, and it's Ice, which is a 3 cost and loyal. Very important to note that. Attachment. It's Valyrian steel and a weapon. It has Stark character only. Attached character gets +2 strength, which is nice. And the real meat of the card is the reaction. After you win a military challenge in which attached character is participating, sacrifice Ice to choose and kill a character controlled by the losing opponent. So target kill. I win this military challenge with somebody and I can get rid of this card, which is unique by the way, so you can't have multiples of them in the game at once, and you can choose to kill anyone on the other side of the table. That kills Tywin, that kills the Red Viper, that kills Euron Crow's Eye, whoever you want. Just hurl ice at him and he's dead. So for that reason it's pretty cool. It's expensive. 3 for an attachment is expensive, for sure. I'm going to show you an event that's in the core box in conjunction with Ice for the North, which basically gives you extra strength +2. So if you're putting +2 plus another +2, it's +4 with these two, you're killing whoever you want on the other side of the table, and that's a nice combo to have. So if you're running Ice, you should probably run at least 1 copy of for the North. So Ice is a 4-star attachment. It would be higher, it would be 5 if it was 2 gold maybe. I just don't always have the 3 gold to spare because Stark don't tend to have a lot of money. I tend to brute force giving them a lot of income with big plots, like trading with the Pentoshi or Late Summer Feast, that sort of stuff. But they're not typically good at having a lot of money. And when you do have it, you want characters with Stark because the characters are so good. So there is that back and forth of, do I want to really spend 3 gold on Ice when I can spend 3 gold on Septim Ordain, who makes Sansa and Arya better, you know, or Sansa, or Arya, or Summer, or any of those other characters that we spoke about earlier. And personally, 9 times out of 10, I probably would put the character in, but if my opponent has a proper, serious problem character on the other side of the table, Ice is an option, and one that shouldn't be taken lightly. It's a pretty good card. So that's Ice. So we're moving on to the locations now, and the first location is Gates of Winterfell. It is a 2-cost location. It's unique with the North and Winterfell traits. The challenge's action is kneel Gates of Winterfell to reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a Stark card, draw it. Otherwise, return it face down to the top of your deck. Okay, I'm kind of sort of in 2 minds about this card. I mean, it's card draw most of the time, but you're showing your opponent, you're literally showing your opponent the cards in your hand by doing this. And there's the slim chance that you won't get the card. If you're running a banner, like if you're doing a Stark deck with Tyrell or a Stark deck with Targaryen or whatever it is, you're not running this card because minimum 12, probably really minimum 15 to 20 of your cards are not going to be Stark, and you're just basically giving information to your opponent. If you're running Stark Fealty or Stark and just Stark, this is a sort of an option for a bit of draw, but I don't like this card after playing it a few times because I've gotten my Likemore Brains in my hand from this, and people have known not to intrigue challenge me with their best characters because of that. I've gotten my Robb Stark into my hand from that, and then my opponent has gone crazy with intrigue challenges to get rid of my hand as a result. So generally in this game, giving information to your opponent is a bad thing, and while this card, I did try it out a few times and thought it might be okay, it's a 1-star. It's definitely a 1-star. Don't use this card. It's the weakest Stark card in the pile, in the core set, for that reason. And there are other ways to get draw, and this is not a good way to do it. Okay, and the next location is the Wolveswood, which is a 1-cost unique Stark location. It has the North trait and has the text of each direwolf card in your hand gains ambush X. X is that card's printed cost. A quick reminder what ambush is. It's basically you can put a character into play during the challenges phase at any time by paying its cost. And so in this case, any of the direwolves that you've got, for example the ones we spoke about earlier, like Graywind, you can play Graywind in the challenge phase for 5 gold, because X is its cost. Likewise, you can pay 3 gold for Summer, 2 gold for Direwolf Pop, and so on. It's just like a sneaky way of putting characters into play when your opponent's not expecting it. Not that sneaky if you have this location out there on the table, because if you're keeping a lot of money in reserve for the challenge phase and you've got this out, your opponent's probably expecting something like this to happen. But the real utility for this card is with like Warm Rain, the event that I've mentioned already with direwolves. What that allows you to do is ambush in a direwolf just as your opponent initiates an intrigue challenge, and then you lose it intentionally, kneel the direwolf and play this event to kill a character. And that's a really sneaky, fun kind of way to do that. Not a very Stark thematic thing, really. Well, I suppose it is. It's a bit like having a direwolf run in and bite Great John Umber's thumb off, or something like that. Maybe that's what they were thinking when they put that mechanism together. But the Wolveswood, yeah, it allows you that bit of flexibility with your direwolf characters. I mean, if you're running a lot of direwolves, it's a decent card to have in there. But because it's just direwolves, probably not super useful, especially later on when you got a lot more options for Stark. You're either going heavily in with the direwolves or doing something very different. So the rating for this one is pretty context specific. It's probably a 4-star card, or 3.5 maybe, for a direwolf deck, and it's doesn't even register if you're not running direwolves. So yeah, a very specific use for this card, and it's not super exciting. It's okay, you know. That combo I just showed is probably its most fun use, but it's not something to write home about, really. The next card is the Hearttree Grove. Each faction has one of these, more or less, each faction. This is the Stark's version of the 0 cost reduced by 1 location. It costs 0, it's non-unique, so you can have a bunch of these at the same time. It's limited, which means you can only play 1 of these per round, or 1 limited card total per round. It has the Old Gods and Winterfell traits, and the marshalling action, kneel Hearttree Grove to reduce the cost of the next Stark card you marshal this phase by 1. So awesome card, makes everything cheaper, costs nothing to put down on the table, and can be used straight away. I've said this about all the other houses, same thing. It's a essential card to have in your deck. In the 3rd cycle, there's a new kind of range of locations that reduce cost, but they require you to put down 2 gold up front. These guys are immediate gratification of having that reduce for the rest of the game, as long as it stays out, and being able to use it immediately. So that's pretty awesome. 5 stars, yeah, without doubt. Up next is For the North. Is a 0 cost event. Play only during a military challenge. Action, choose a participating Stark character. Until the end of the challenge, that character gets +2 strength. If you win the challenge, draw a card. Okay, so this card has a fair bit of utility for other events, actually. It combos nicely with those events and abilities that require you to win by 5 strength or more, such as ones I just mentioned a minute ago. Put to the torch, which requires 5 strength or more in a win in order to choose location and discard from play, and put to the torch, which does this a very similar ability but actually kills a character. So for the north, you can really do a lot of damage in combination with these guys. That +2 strength can make a really big difference in a challenge, and has the added bonus of drawing that card as well. Card draw can be underestimated in Thrones, and having that extra option is really nice. I think this is a solid card. I'd give it 4 stars. The downside is that you can only play during the military challenge, but the 0 cost is pretty good, and I recommend having 1 or 2 of these in a military heavy character based Stark deck for sure. It offers a lot of option, so yeah, not bad at all. Second last card is one I've spoken about already a couple of times. It's Like Warm Rain. It's a Stark event. Has a 1 cost, and the reaction: after you lose an intrigue challenge as the defending player, kneel a direwolf character to choose and kill an attacking character, max 1 per challenge. So obviously we've spoken about this card already. I like using Direwolf Pop with this to antagonize particularly Lannister players who use a lot of intrigue, and yeah, it's good fun. In reality, it's probably not a great card, but it is certainly a fun card, one that I like to play. We've spoken about it quite a lot already, so I won't go into much more detail on it, but I would like to give this 4 stars. It's probably 3.5 stars. If you're not running enough direwolves, it's not really a thing you're going to be using, of course. But in a direwolf deck, I think you should definitely put a couple in there and keep your opponent on their toes. Even hold back a gold for the threat of this after you've used one to scare them off. And that utility is pretty good. The last card in the Stark section of the core box is, it's actually their house motto as an event. It's a loyal event. It costs 1 gold. Winter is coming. Play only during a challenge, and the action is: until the end of the challenge, raise the claim value on your revealed plot card by 1, max 1 per challenge. Really solid card. Having claim of 2 can make a huge difference. It's not restricted to any challenge type like a lot of the other abilities that you've seen in this group of Stark cards. A lot of them tended to be military only related things. This one doesn't have that restriction. It's anything can be intrigue, can be power, can be military. Getting that extra claim in is amazing. So 5 stars for this card. It does cost a gold and it is loyal, so you are going to be a little bit limited in its use there, but you should probably sneak one of these into most Stark decks to give you that chance of doing that additional surprise damage. I mean, a lot of the time in this game, players are going to make a decision about whether to defend based on what other challenges are going to be there. If you've got enough characters out to do 2 or 3 challenges and defend successfully, you can use this card whichever challenge goes through unopposed or is not defended particularly strongly, just to avoid that, and really make your opponent regret it. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun pulling this card out with Vanguard in the north for the second military challenge. That's a lot of fun. It's just one of those very basic card abilities that can really turn the tide of battle. So that's great. It's really good fun. So that's it for all the cards in the core box for Stark. Let's pick a best one. I think maybe the best combo for sure is the Graywind and Robb combo that I spoke about already. If I was to choose a card to be the best one that springs to mind is Arya, but the best card really, I think, if I was to choose, is Catelyn Stark. This one shouldn't be underestimated. She's a super powerful card, especially for her cost. Her cost ratio is really good, and the fact that she can shut down any card ability in a challenge makes her just really good, really good. So that's the Starks. Yeah, so Stark have a lot going on. They're not just attack people for military claim and brute force victory. They have a few tricks up their sleeves. Once you've got a few more packs and expansions and cards and stuff, you'll see quite a lot of different strategies for Stark. But the straight out of the core box, they've got at least 2 or 3 dimensions to them that can make them interesting to play. As a fan favorite house, I'm sure people will scrutinize the thematic context of some of these cards, but I think the developers and the designer did a really good job of capturing the characters and how they would behave in these circumstances for the most part. So yeah, top marks for Stark. They're really fun to play. And that's it for this video. So thank you for watching. I appreciate your time, and it's been quite a while since there was a video. It's a busy time. Anybody who's worked in video games will know that every now and again you got to release one, which takes it out of you. So that's what's been going on in my life recently. But hopefully we'll be able to make time for some more card videos for Thrones and some other games. Some more how to play is coming, I can promise you that. So share and like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.